This is the most infamous victory in football history. They're the first French club to win the Champions League in the inaugural final in '93. A moment of glory that remains sacred in Marseille. But that triumph is one of the most tainted trophies in football history. It was a victory built on a foundation of allegations of match-fixing, corruption and scandal that triggered the club's relegation, destroyed careers, and sent its owner to prison. To the world, they were champions. To the history books, they are forever stained. This is the story of Marseille in 1993. To understand the magnitude of the fall, you must first appreciate the climb. Marseille is not merely a football club, it's a religion. It's the beating, footballing heart of the vibrant Mediterranean port city of Marseille. The club's slogan, straight to the goal, embodies the direct, demanding, and sometimes brutal passion of its supporters. For decades, Marseille was a significant force, securing 6 league titles before the 1980s. Their home, the magnificent Stade Velodrome, is one of the most electric arenas in world football. Famous for its intense atmosphere and the demanding ultras, who accept nothing less than success. This history of dramatic highs and crushing lows set the stage for the extraordinary character who would forever define the club's modern era, Bernard Tapie. Born to a working-class family in Paris, he was the quintessential self-made millionaire, a chameleon who excelled in business, politics and the media. He was a charismatic typhoon of populist energy, a genius at acquiring and resurrecting failing French companies, and a master of self-promotion. Tapie could sell anything, and his track record of resurrecting failing businesses and even finding sporting success with his cycling team, La Vie Claire, who secured consecutive Tour de France victories, gave him an aura of untouchable, Midas-like success. When the mayor of Marseille, Gaston Defferre, approached him to purchase the ailing football club in '86, Tapie saw not a simple sporting investment, but a powerful vehicle for his boundless global ambition, and a tool for political gain, which eventually led to him becoming a member of the French National Assembly, and briefly serving as Minister of Urban Affairs. He wasn't interested in measured, sustainable growth. He demanded instant, total dominance. Tapie immediately injected millions into the club's infrastructure and transfer budget. The goal was to assemble a team of international superstars capable of achieving European glory. His first wave of signings included German international Karl-Heinz Forster and Klaus Allofs, and most crucially, the brilliant French striker Jean-Pierre Papin. This initial investment yielded immediate results, delivering Marseille's first league title in 17 years. The summer of 1989 marked the most aggressive escalation of his ambition. Tapie signed players who would become modern legends of the game, including the tireless midfield general Didier Deschamps, the elegant Uruguayan playmaker Enzo Francescoli, and the magnificent English winger known for his flair and artistry, Chris Waddle. These stars underpinned a second league triumph, confirming Marseille's status as France's premier club, successfully taking on the wealth of rivals like Arsene Wenger's Monaco. However, Tapie's gaze was fixed solely on one prize, the European Cup. He was obsessed with conquering Europe, an achievement that had eluded all of France. The domestic titles were mere stepping stones to that ultimate continental prize. In 1990, Marseille reached the semi-finals of the European Cup, only to lose a devastating second leg to Benfica on an away goal. A goal which, upon replay, was clearly scored by a handball. The injustice was palpable, and Tapie's public reaction became legendary. "I learned quickly," he famously stated, "that will not happen to us again." Then came the heartbreak of '91. They reached the final in Bari, in Italy, only to suffer a crushing defeat on penalties to Red Star Belgrade. The next year they were dumped out early by Sparta Prague. Each European failure pushed Tapie closer to a point of no return. Crucially, his vast business empire was imploding. It was riddled with debt, mainly from the loans of $398 million he'd used to acquire sporting giant Adidas. His legal and political troubles were escalating rapidly, and he was under immense pressure to sell assets and stave off his creditors. The sale of his controlling share in Adidas went through for $370 million, $30 million less than the previously negotiated fee. The European Cup ceased to be a simple ambition. It became a matter of immediate financial and political survival. He was forced to risk everything and go all in to secure the one victory that could possibly validate his entire personality and silence the multitude of opponents. For the inaugural Champions League season in 92-93, UEFA's rebranded version of the European Cup, Tapie made his final high-stakes investments. He signed a cohort of world-class talent, including the young goalkeeper Fabian Barthez, centre-back Marcel Desailly, and lethal Croatian striker Alen Boksic. The resulting team, managed by the veteran Belgian Raymond Goethals, was a tactical and physical force. Barthez in goal, the formidable backline of Desailly and Basile Boli, the midfield engine of Deschamps and Frank Soisy, and the lethal partnership up front of Boksic and Rudi Voller, who between them would combine to score nearly 50 goals that year. The quality was undeniable. Marseille were drawn into a tough Champions League group alongside Scottish champions Rangers, Russian champions CSKA Moscow, and Belgian league winners Club Bruges. Marseille navigated the entire group stage unbeaten with 3 wins and 3 draws, narrowly edging out Rangers to reach the final. However, the path to the final was already riddled with whispers that would later be detailed in French prosecution's case against Tapie. The most shocking allegations surrounded the matches against CSKA Moscow. The Russian side had performed admirably, but lost 6-0 at the Stade Velodrome. CSKA manager Gennady Kostyliev later released a statement claiming he received a phone call from a person from Marseille offering money to lose the match. He abruptly withdrew the allegations, but the controversy was compounded by even darker claims. Marseille defender Jean-Jacques Edouli would later claim in his 2006 autobiography that Marseille officials had acquired the Muscovite players' water packs and used a syringe with a very fine needle to inject something through the cap. The rivalry with Rangers was even more emotionally charged. Marseille and Rangers were neck and neck until the penultimate game. Rangers English striker Mark Hateley was suspended for the decisive clash against Marseille, and he later recalled a disturbing phone call in the days leading up to his suspension. It was a French-speaking person offering me large sums of money not to play against Marseille. Hateley refused, and his timely suspension meant he missed the crucial 1-1 draw. Walter Smith, the Rangers manager, would later confess the lasting bitterness. If we hadn't lost Mark Hateley for that game, we would have got to the final in '93. The final group game was a 1-0 victory against Club Bruges, and it was the key that unlocked the final. This game later formed a critical part of the French prosecution's case against Tapie, specifically focusing on suspicious financial movements. 2 days before the match in Belgium, a Marseille official transferred $311,000 through a Swiss bank account to another account in Brussels. This cash was later withdrawn by an intermediary and delivered to an unidentified Belgian man on the orders of Marseille's financial director, Alain Laroche. The proximity of the transaction to the match, a game that sealed progress at Rangers' expense, was viewed as being highly suspicious. Marseille narrowly edged out Rangers by a single point to reach the final, and their opponents, Fabio Capello's formidable, undefeated AC Milan, a team that had powered through their group with 6 wins from 6, were the pinnacle of European football. The stage was set for a confrontation with destiny. Milan, boasting defensive legends of Baresi, Maldini and Costacurta, alongside the attacking brilliance of Van Basten and Massaro, were installed as the overwhelming favourites. But Tapie was operating on pure adrenaline, refusing to accept any possibility of failure. Marseille was simultaneously locked in a tight Ligue 1 title race with PSG and Arsene Wenger's high-flying Monaco. 4 days before they travelled to Munich, they needed a victory over relegation threshold Valenciennes to effectively secure the domestic trophy and eliminate any risk of player injury before the final. The decision to bribe the opposition was allegedly finalised during a party on Tapie's luxury yacht, 4 days before the Valenciennes fixture. Tapie allegedly ordered Jean-Jacques Adouli, a former teammate of several Valenciennes players from the days at Nantes, to act as an intermediary. The instruction, as detailed in Adouli's subsequent autobiography, was chillingly pragmatic. It's imperative that you get in contact with your former teammates. We don't want them acting like idiots and breaking us before the final with Milan. Marseille general manager Jean-Pierre Bern were allegedly aware of the scheme, with Bern later stating the goal was purely to secure the title and avoid pre-final injuries. The targets were Valenciennes players Christophe Robert, Jorge Burruchaga, and Jacques Glassman. The offer was substantial, 250,000 French francs at the time, for each player to take it easy. Robert and Burruchaga accepted the bribe, with Robert and his wife accepting 50% up front. Glassman, however, was deeply troubled. After a sleepless night and consultation with his wife, he made the fateful decision to blow the whistle, informing his manager, who then alerted the club president. Despite the internal warning at Valenciennes, Tapie proceeded. On the evening of May the 19th, in the car park of the Novotel where the Marseille players were staying, Robert's wife met Adouli and received an envelope of cash. Marseille won the match 1-0 through a Boksic goal, seemingly completing the domestic portion of the double. 6 days later, in May '93, Marseille lined up in Munich against Milan. The match was a gladiatorial contest. For 40 minutes, Milan dominated, forcing Barthez into a string of crucial saves. Gianluigi Lentini and Donadoni had the better of Adouli and Dimeco on the wings. Then the script flipped. Pelé broke away from the attention of Frank Rijkaard and Albertini, winning a corner kick. In the 44th minute, the moment of destiny had arrived. At the near post, the powerful defender, Basile Boli, who was nursing a serious injury, rose the highest. He met Pelé's corner and flicked a header past the motionless Milan keeper Sebastiano Rossi. 1-0 Marseille. 2 years before, Boli had laid stricken on the field in Bari, heartbroken by Red Star. Marseille's defence, led by the colossal presence of Desailly, held firm for the entire second half against waves of Milan attacks. When the final whistle blew, they'd done it. Marseille were the inaugural Champions League winners. Tapie bounded onto the pitch, his beaming face appearing in every photograph. "We were absolutely sure of winning," he said. "In '93 I had 11 players who were ready to die for each other." The glory, however, was short-lived. Just 2 weeks after the final, the criminal justice system in France descended upon the club. Christophe Robert, laden with guilt, led investigators to his aunt's back garden, where the envelope containing 250,000 francs was hastily buried. "The cash stunk so much, I had to bury it," Robert later said. The Marseille scandal had exploded. A criminal complaint was filed in the office of Valenciennes magistrates. The consequences for both the perpetrator and the victims were catastrophic, extending far beyond the pitch. While Marseille retained their status as the only French winner of the Champions League at the time, they were stripped of the 92-93 Ligue 1 title, which remains vacant. Key players and staff, including Deschamps, Voller, Boli and Goethals, immediately departed, forced out by the loss of Champions League revenue, which required Tapie to sell stars like Desailly and Boksic. The French Football Federation's Federal Council subsequently relegated Marseille to the second division in '94. Despite winning the Ligue 2 title, Marseille was blocked from promotion by the financial watchdog due to a staggering debt of nearly 300 million francs. In April '95, Marseille officially filed for bankruptcy. Robert Louis Dreyfus, who had ironically purchased Adidas from Tapie in '93, invested over 200 million euros and restored the club to the top tier. Robert Louis Dreyfus died in 2009, with his final act being the appointment of Didier Deschamps as manager, a symbolic attempt to restore honour through a member of the glory generation. Valenciennes, the victim, suffered an even harsher institutional fate. The scandal tarnished their image, leading to an exodus of players, and a disastrous performance that saw them relegated from Ligue 2 to the third tier for the first time in their history. 2 seasons later, chronic financial problems plunged them into the 4th division. The club was eventually forced to file for bankruptcy and was briefly relegated to amateur status before being resurrected in '96. Valenciennes eventually began a gradual climb back, securing promotion to Ligue 1 in 2006, where they stabilised for an 8-year spell, and earned a reputation for their free-flowing attacking football. However, chronic financial issues continued, leading to a rapid decline and relegation in 2014. Former president Jean-Louis Borloo had to return, injecting €500,000 of personal funds and securing $2.1 million from other investors to save the club from liquidation. Bernard Tapie attempted to manoeuvre his way out of trouble. In May '95, Tapie was sentenced to over 2 years in prison. 8 months of the sentence was for match fixing, and another 18 months for fraud of the club's accounts. He was also fined 20,000 francs. He served 6 months before being given a conditional release. Jean-Jacques Adouli was convicted of active corruption, serving 17 days in prison and receiving a 1-year suspended sentence and an 18-month ban from FIFA. He returned to football but never reached the Marseille heights again. Jean-Pierre Bern, Tapie's Director General, was also found guilty, receiving a 2-year suspended sentence and a fine. He later testified to regular attempts to buy opponents and referees, both at home and abroad. Jacques Glassman, the whistleblower, received a FIFA Fair Play Award in '96, but he became a pariah, enduring constant harassment, jeers and sometimes death threats. Arsene Wenger later admitted to being disgusted by the scandal, and he left French football entirely, managing Japan before taking over at Arsenal, bringing Valenciennes manager Boro Primorac with him as his assistant. The atmosphere of controversy deepened in 2006 when Jean-Jacques Adouli released his autobiography. He claimed that nearly all Marseille players were given suspicious injections before the final against Milan, alleging widespread doping practices at most of his clubs. Former teammate Tony Cascarino wrote, "To this day, I don't have a clue what it was. The doctor would only tell me that it would give me an adrenaline boost. Whatever the substance was, my performance improved. I cling to the sliver of hope that it was legal, though I'm 99% sure it wasn't." UEFA rechecked the anti-doping tests taken at the time and confirmed they were negative. Tapie unsuccessfully sued Adouli for libel. Nonetheless, the allegations added a profound and permanent layer of doubt. The story of Tapie, the architect of the scandal, did not end with his release from prison. His life became a multi-decade legal and political saga. His central legal battle for nearly 3 decades revolved around his original forced '93 sale of Adidas. He accused the state-owned bank Crédit Lyonnais of defrauding him after it resold the company to Robert Louis Dreyfus. In 2007, he supported Nicolas Sarkozy for president, and after Sarkozy won, his government took the unprecedented step of bypassing the standard court system and used an independent, government-approved arbitration panel to settle the case. In 2008, the tribunal ruled in Tapie's favour, awarding him a staggering €403 million in compensation. Christine Lagarde, then Minister of the Economy and Finance, approved the use of this arbitration. The political tide turned in 2012 when Sarkozy lost the presidency. Public outcry over the massive payout led to a judicial review. And in 2015, a Parisian appeal court reversed the entire decision, ordering Tapie to pay back the entire sum. His total debt, now including interest, ballooned to €586 million, and he faced new charges of fraud and embezzlement related to the initial payout, but was acquitted in 2019. Tapie continued his fight until his death in 2021. The modern era of Marseille is defined by the quest to recapture the glory without the stain of corruption. The club is currently owned by American businessman Frank McCourt, who purchased it in 2016. He's overseen significant investment aiming to return Marseille to a position of European competitiveness. They found moderate success in the Europa League, most notably reaching the final in 2018, losing to Atletico Madrid. Domestically, they remain a top competitor. frequently finishing in European places, but have been unable to break the financial and sporting stranglehold of Paris Saint-Germain. The 93 Champions League win is Marseille's highest peak and deepest valley. It's the single most treasured, cherished and celebrated trophy in the club's history. The first victory in the European Cup for a French club, and the ultimate source of pride for the entire city of Marseille. But it's simultaneously the single greatest source of shame and controversy. A potent symbol of the dark lengths to which one man was willing to go for power and glory, leading to the downfall of both Marseille and Valenciennes. The achievement is profound. It proved that a French club could indeed beat the absolute best in Europe, overcoming the legendary AC Milan side. Yet the nature of that triumph, the allegations of match-fixing and corruption, scars the trophy for the supporters. They hold it up as a permanent proof of their club's greatness, a constant reminder to the rest of France that the soul of French football belongs to the South, and they will never give it back. But for the history books, the legacy of that great Marseille side of the early 90s will forever be a study in dark glory, a victory that remains tainted for a cast of star players. It remains a warning of the corruption that can plague the global game. And even now, over 30 years later, the first winner of the Champions League remains its most controversial. And the scandal that is attached to that victory is a wound that for Marseille may never fully heal. If you like football stories and football with a soul, hit like and subscribe. What are your memories of this great Marseille side? Let us know in the comments below. And in the meantime, stay tuned for more football history. One incredible story